Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfic. This will be the continuation of Deku D.O. This will be Part 2, Chapter 2, entitled A Day in the Life. Izuku rubbed his eyes blearily as he made his way toward his home room. His shift had run an hour late when it turned out that his patient, in for a small bowel resection, had an undiagnosed bleeding disorder leading to complications during surgery. Izuku had managed to save the patient, but they still weren't fully stabilized by the time he had left. At least practical heroics wasn't until the afternoon. Maybe Izuku could sneak a nap during second period biology. "Dude, you look like hell," Kaminari whistled. "Did you stay up all night playing games or something?" "Or something. No, better to wait until lunch." "That was very irresponsible of you," Ida chopped. "As a future hero in training, it is of the utmost importance that you get an adequate rest." "Easy, dude." Kaminari put his hand on Ida's shoulder. "I think it's super manly that Deku was able to unwind and have some fun. He's always working so hard." Izuku wondered if he should correct his classmates. He was too tired to deal with it. "Yeah, Deku works the hardest out of all of us," Uraraka grinned. "Speaking of, how was your shift at the internet cafe last night?" "Long," Izuku groaned. "So many customers. I will have nightmares from all the paperwork." "Is that why you didn't sleep?" "Mm-hmm." "I sincerely apologize for my earlier assumption," Ida bowed. "Don't worry about it. How about you, Uraraka-chan? Didn't you have a shift at the convenience store?" "Actually, my schedule was rearranged, so now I do food delivery for that ramen shop just off of campus on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights." "I don't know how you manage 3 part-time jobs with your hero studies," Kaminari interjected. "I'm ready to pass out after class every day. I barely have energy for homework." "It's super manly," Kirishima agreed. "I don't know about that," Uraraka shrugged. "It's just that UA is really expensive." "Plus, it's good practice," Izuku added. "These days, lots of pro heroes work multiple jobs. All of our teachers work at least 2, and Powerloader Sensei and Mike Sensei work 3. And then there's Best Genus, who is a licensed youth counselor, Uebame, who does all that modeling, and Fourth Kind, who is a civil servant, and Lunch Rush owns a restaurant chain, and—" "Deku-kun, your fanboy is showing," Uraraka laughed. Izuku blushed a deep red. "It's true, though," he mumbled. "The reality is that heroics pays by rankings, so a lot of lower-ranked heroes have second and third jobs. Not to mention, depending on the job, having a second job can be an important part of one's hero work, like Mike Sensei's talk show, which helps share important safety information and advice for people who are struggling. His call-in center, which handles the call-ins to his show, also doubles as an emergency helpline." "Is that why you applied for a part-time job?" Ida asked. "Actually, I've been working my job since I was 8. "Isn't that really young?" "Shit. Oh, I wasn't really hired until I was older, but I spent a lot of time there as a kid. The manager would watch me while my mom worked, so I used to volunteer to help with chores and such. Once I was old enough, they started paying me." So it was fudging the details a bit. But Izuku couldn't tell his friends that he spent a large portion of his childhood in an illegal hospital because he was beat up by bullies for being quirkless and was refused treatment by regular doctors. There was a reason his future hero classmates thought he worked at an internet cafe. There was an overnight internet cafe next to the clinic, but Izuku had never been inside. "That's so sweet," Uraraka squealed. "I could just picture a mini Deku trying to help out." Izuku wondered if she would still think that it was sweet if she knew that his helping out, as an 8-year-old, was mostly mopping up bodily fluids and washing soiled scrubs and linens. It wasn't until he was 10 that he was trained in and allowed to perform basic first aid on patients, and he didn't start his medical training in earnest until he was 12. "Enough talking. It's time for homeroom," Aizawa interrupted. "Just as a reminder, you will have a special heroics practical class this afternoon. Remember to bring your costumes. You will not be allowed to go back to the dorms if you forget them. Now, on to other matters. Since you all just moved into the dorms, for homeroom this morning I will be checking in with each of you to make sure you're settling in and address any problems and concerns. Koda, you're first. If anybody needs me, I will be just outside in the hallway." Aizawa then abruptly turned and headed out of the 1A classroom. Izuku promptly face-planted at his desk, desperate to catch even a few moments of sleep. "Oi, useless nerd. Aizawa says you're up," Bakugo shouted as he re-entered the classroom. "Thanks, Kachan," Izuku groaned as he tiredly pulled himself up out of his seat. He had been having such a nice nap, too. "Midoriya," Aizawa began neutrally once Izuku entered the hallway. "I have something I want to talk to you about. Before that, do you have any issues or concerns regarding how you're settling into the dorm?" "Actually, Sensei," Izuku responded, Don't tell him I told you this, but I recently found out that Shoto-kun thought that babies are shipped to parents by hospitals. His brother gave him the talk last week, but he might not be the only one, and now that we all live together. He what? Aizawa interrupted before sighing heavily. Never mind. I'll talk to Nezu about it and we'll figure something out. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Anything else? No, Sensei. Okay, then. If anything does occur, know that there's always at least one teacher on call overnight. Now, I was on call last night, and I noticed you didn't return to the dorm until 3:30. That is, I have a job. Yes, Midoriya. I'm aware that you have a part-time job. What is unclear to me is why that means you are getting only 3 hours of sleep at night. 5 hours, actually, Izuku interrupted. There was an incident last night, and my shift ran an hour over, and I usually sleep for an hour during my break. That isn't much better. Your sleep schedule isn't healthy or safe. Normally, we would trust the students to be responsible enough to manage their own time, but by not sleeping and being overtired during class, you are putting both yourself and, frankly, your classmates at risk. You're one to talk, Sensei, Izuku snapped back defensively. There's no way you get more than 3 hours of sleep at night. No, I don't. But I am neither growing nor in training. Plus, I only teach 3 classes, meaning that I'm able to get plenty of sleep during the day. If you're going to be a hero, you need to learn to take care of your health first. It's only logical. I would be a pretty crappy doctor if I didn't already know that, Izuku snarked internally. Just that doctors tend to be hypocrites. I'm fine, Aizawa-sensei. You don't need to worry. I know what I'm doing. Aizawa frowned lightly. Is everything okay? If it's a financial issue, I'm sure we could work something out. Nothing like that. Izuku didn't even get paid for his night work. Last night was just a bad night, that's all. I promise I get enough sleep. Aizawa gave Izuku a long look. I'll let you go for now, but I will intervene if this continues. Shit. Izuku was going to have to be much more careful when heading back to the dorms. He only lived on the 2nd floor. Maybe he could start sneaking in through his window. You won't have to, Izuku promised, because you won't catch me. Very well, Aizawa sighed. You're free to go. Could you send out Mineta? Sure. Izuku headed back into the classroom. Mineta-san, you're up. Oi, Deku, you were out there for too long. What is fucking going on? Bakugo snarled as Izuku took a seat. It's fine, Kachan. Izuku brushed it off. I just had some questions about going to visit Kasan over the weekend. Fine, nerd. Bakugo leaned back in his seat. Mineta came back all too quickly, followed by Yaoyorozu, who was last. A few minutes later, Motojiro-sensei entered the room and started their science class. Now then, allow me to announce the theme of today's science unit. Motojiro-sensei cackled. Human anatomy up close. Izuku smiled. At least this unit would be an easy grade. He was an expert in human anatomy, up close. We will start with the brain, a scientific marvel. Even happiness is just a simple signal in the brain. Can anyone tell me what the lobes of the brain are? Yaoyorozu-san. The frontal, parietal, occipital, and temporal lobes. That's wrong. Care to elaborate, Midoriya-san? Izuku froze. Had he said that out loud? He really was overtired. It's true that the brain is traditionally divided into the 4 lobes Yaoyorozu-san mentioned, Izuku began. But there's actually a 5th lobe, the insula lobe, sometimes called the insular cortex or the island of Rail. It's part of the cerebral cortex and is buried pretty deep within the lateral sulcus and isn't very well understood, which is partly why it gets left out. As far as medical researchers can tell, the insula has a wide range of functions, including a variety of sensory motor processing functions, social emotional processing functions, and cognitive functions. What we know about its role in emotional subjectivity and empathy is truly fascinating. It's my personal hypothesis that a large number of so-called empathy quirks are actual insular mutations. Of course, it is difficult to see on brain scans given how deep it is, so we can't actually prove it, but... The fuck, nerd? Bakugo barked, cutting Izuku off. Could someone repeat that in Japanese, please? Kaminari asked. I mean, it's a very small lobe deep in the brain that we don't know much about, but probably does a lot of important things in our bodies, like control the way we experience emotions, Izuku offered. Very good, Midoriya-san. Oh, the possibilities for experimentation and the true expression of science is beauty. Now, can anybody tell me the true function of the cerebrum? Izuku sighed. Maybe it wasn't such a bad idea to try to sneak a nap during class. I believe I've mentioned this already. Aizawa began their heroics lesson. But your main focus this summer is obtaining provisional hero licenses. Yes, sir. Do not take this lightly. A hero license means that you're responsible for human lives. So same old, Izuku thought, with a touch of dark humor. You can imagine that the exam to receive one is very difficult. Again, not seeing much difference here. I mean, to be fair, I did skip out on the whole med school thing and practice medicine mostly illegally. But if I did that for heroics, I'd be labeled a vigilante and hunted by the police. Holy crap, I'm a doctor vigilante. A vigilante doctor? Wait, no, class now. Freak out later. Only 50% of students pass the test required to get these permits each year. It's that hard to get a provisional license, Mineta interrupted. Aizawa narrowed his eyes at the intrusion, but continued his lecture. In order to prepare, today you'll concentrate on creating something new. The classroom doors suddenly slid open, revealing Midnight, Ectoplasm, and Cementos. 2 ultimate moves. Ultimate moves? Kaminari and Kirishima asked. An exam is a normal school thing, Mina added. But this is total hero work, Sero concluded excitedly. Izuku's sweat dropped. This was way too dramatic. Why were his classmates like this? When we say ultimate, we mean a move that will ensure you will win against your opponent, Ectoplasm explained. Cementos continued. An action so unique to your identity that no other person can hope to copy it. Simply put, you must learn to lean into your strengths. Your moves represent who you are, Midnight added. These days, most pro heroes have an ultimate move. Those who don't are fools. Aizawa once more took over the lesson. This may sound abstract, but we'll explain more as the class goes on. For now, change it to your costumes and meet in Gym Gamma. Once the class had changed and reassembled in the gym, Aizawa continued. Gym Gamma, also known as the Training Dining Land, or TDL. Huh? Uraraka interjected. Izuku couldn't help but agree. What was with UA's obsession with unnecessary acronyms, USJ, TDL? It was almost as bad as the clinic's diagnostic codes, and those were a nightmare and a half to deal with. This facility was my idea. Cementos started to raise a concrete structure from the gym floor. We can prepare unique terrains and obstacles for each student here. Here you will learn to serve up justice, hence the name. Izuku groaned internally. That was beyond cheesy. Ida stiffly raised his hand into the air. Please allow me a question. What is the advantage of having ultimate moves for our provisional exam? May we know your reasoning? That's 2 questions. Calm down. Aizawa sighed tiredly. The job of a hero is to save people from all sorts of dangers, crime, accidents, and natural or man-made disasters. Of course, the licensing exam analyzes how well you're able to deal with such things. It won't just be fighting. Your ability to gather information and make quick decisions will be judged in addition to how well you communicate, cooperate, and lead others. Every year a new test is used to evaluate these qualities. It sounds like the exam may have a rescue element, Izuku mused. I should inventory my first aid supplies and see if I'm missing anything I may need. I may even be able to access some better quality materials through UA. The stuff the clinic gets can be iffy. One thing is especially important. If you want to be a pro hero, you must be able to prevail in battle. If you're prepared, you won't have to worry, and those of you with an ultimate move will have stronger results, Midnight explained. Cementos picked up where she left off. Your circumstances should not dictate the results of your future battles. Learn to be consistent and you will be a great asset on the front lines. Your ultimate moves don't have to be an attack. Take Ida's Receiver Burst, for example. This sort of temporary boost in speed is valuable enough that it falls into the category of excellence we're looking for, Ectoplasm finished. Izuku hummed to himself. Maybe there was some way he could incorporate his medical knowledge into his move. Izuku knew how to manipulate the human body better than most. You mean I've been doing an ultimate move all along? Ida cried out in shock. So it's basically our secret weapon, Sato mused. Something that gives us the edge that we can win no matter who or what we're facing. There's a smart boy, Midnight winked. For example, how Kami Woods is able to use his lacquered chain prison to capture opponents in an instant. That's exactly what we want to see. The training camp was interrupted, but the practice you did get in to develop your quirks was part of the process needed to create these defining abilities. Now that you're caught up, you'll be working hard to develop powerful moves on your own for the next 10 days or so. This is how you will spend the remainder of your summer term, Aizawa declared. In addition, you should think about how you can improve your costumes, especially now that you have a better understanding of your quirks. I expect each of you to go plus ultra. Do you have it in you? Yes, sir, the class chanted before splitting into their various zones. Izuku frowned. Where should he begin? He couldn't afford to damage his arms any further, especially since he needed such fine control of his hands for surgery. Perhaps he should switch to a leg-based attack style in order to protect his arms. Just because he had the same quirk as All Might didn't mean they had to have the same attack styles. He could also look into additional support equipment to help brace his arms in case he did need to fall back on them in a future battle. Couldn't hurt to be prepared just in case. Yo, young Midoriya. All Might, what are you doing here? You should be resting. You're still injured. And miss this? What are you thinking about? I can't afford to injure my arms anymore, so I was considering whether it would make sense to switch to a leg-based attack style. I know it's not exactly like yours, but... My boy, don't worry about imitating me. You are your own hero. Figure out what works for you. All Might put a hand on Izuku's head before turning away. Hey, Kirishima, let me lay some wisdom on you. All right, then, Izuku decided. Let's begin. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 2 of Deku D.O. Chapter 3 will be up next. Hope you all are still enjoying this one. Let me know your thoughts and reactions to the fic so far. And as always, thank you so much for listening.